Hello, everyone. I'm Justin Maxwell. I'm grateful for this opportunity to introduce Rich Christiansen. He is someone who has personally impacted my life through the work that he has done. And I'm really excited to bring to you his work and allow him to speak to you so that you can hear the value that he brings to the world and the message he brings, because it's a powerful message. Rich is a globally recognized thought leader, educator, mentor, parallel entrepreneur, and a humanitarian. He has founded or co-founded 52 businesses, of which 16 have become multi-million-dollar successes. Each has capitalized with $10,000 or less. He has done business in over 14 countries. He's authored books like The Zigzag Principle, Wall Street is a Wall Street bestseller and a USA Today national best-selling book. He's co-authored books like Bootstrap Business and co-authored a book with his son, Tim, Even If Your Toes Turn Purple, and his new book, which will be coming out in October, Blindsided. I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity to bring you Rich Christiansen.
Thank you, Justin. Happy to be here. We're just humans bumbling along. Some of us bumble a little bit more, which give us a little more life experience. So happy to be here.
Yeah, I really am excited about the opportunity to introduce you to the listeners and the audience, because your message is a message of entrepreneurship and a message of business owners. And the people that are listening to this today are right where you are. They are business owners, entrepreneurs, grinders, trying to make the best out of life. Your message can give them direction, help them correct some things, and give them lessons learned that they might not have thought of before. So I'm really excited about the opportunity for your message to resonate with them.
Happy to do that. The operative word is grind. I spend a lot of my life grinding, realizing that, it's a necessary phase of development. And I don't think we should ever apologize of where we're at. But I think also if we don't look forward to see where we're going, then actually we completely miss the ship. I watched my mentors, Stephen Covey, Alan Hall, Ray Norda, some of these, Dr. Peter Horn, go through this remarkable transition of at some point realizing that, all of the tea in China doesn't make up if you don't get to this internal reality of what am I really all about. And I think that this most recent content that I'm putting out there, although most vulnerable and maybe a little foo-foo, is the most important because it answers the deepest questions of our life. What's my relationship with myself? Legato Family dealt with fundamental relationships, how we stabilize our family and our key tribe. And that was vitally important. So grateful for the impact that was able to have in people's lives. But I think there's a deeper question beyond business. We all have our business public persona, which is Zigzag Principle, and oh my gosh, creating companies and all this fancy stuff. But it's not the pure essence of what brings us joy or who we really are. That's most of the time relationship. But the peace comes from actual relationship with ourselves, and then whatever manifestation of your higher power is. Call it the universe, call it source, call it God, call it nirvana, call it whatever you want to, but until we get clear on that, we can't live a life of peace and joy. And it took me 5 or 6 years, and you don't want to know how much resources I've expended on it because I wanted to get it right. At 53, I had a discovery that completely disassembled my life and who I thought I was. It's taken these complicated 5 or 6 years to reform and reframe my identity, faith, and understanding of what I'm all about.
I appreciate you telling us that, Rich. Your story is significant, and I believe that the business owners, entrepreneurs can learn from your story. Would you mind taking a step backwards and just telling entrepreneurs about your journey and how you've come to be? You had a significant event at age 53. Let's go before that, because I think that leads up to how you've been able to create this new book, Blindsided, and everything you've created have summed up well. Your story is inspiring and a lesson for business owners.
Well, I really have had a remarkable life and journey in very different phases. One of the challenges that I have when I come on this podcast, what do you want me to talk about? Because there have been multiple kind of lives. I jokingly say, I'm like 60 years old now, but I've actually lived about 196. I started in the corporate world, became general manager of Mitsubishi Electric's PC division at a young age, and then spent part of my life in the corporate world and then became very disenfranchised, realizing that I couldn't taste the market forces eyeball to eyeball. And so quite abruptly quit to become an entrepreneur. I saw what was taking place with venture capital and I wanted to see the market. I became the lean startup entrepreneur in the US. I founded or co-founded 51 businesses. 19 have failed, but 17 have become multi-million-dollar businesses. So kind of wrote the book, literally a zigzag principle was on the processes that I followed to mitigate risk to get to viability and profitability, knowing that if I created 3 businesses, one would fail, one would be mediocre, and one would be a multi-million-dollar business. And the remarkable thing of doing that with less than five to $10,000 capital is what I'd use. One of the key principles of that concept is guardrailing, so we don't end up blowing up our life and wasting time, money, and duration of time, which is the most valuable commodity. That's where I got the most attention in my life. But you've got to ask what drives someone to do 51 businesses. Someone has a lot of daddy issues, and that's probably me. At some point, it worked until it didn't. My mentor, Alan Hall, I was about to 41 at that point, and he pulled me and says, "Oh my gosh, Rich, this is a perfectly good hat trick. Went very, very, very wrong. You've got to do something different." He pre-called that the model, as remarkable as it was, I had to stop kind of earning my love. And so that really did lead then into an interrupt that I kind of stopped creating businesses and I put forward the Legato Family Framework, which is just this beautiful, deep, rich framework of how we stabilize our families and on our tribes and those closest to us in this visceral world that we live that is so conflicted and so polarized. We've lost true community in the very essence of what unifies family and tribe. And at the very essence of our social ills was the breakdown of core units. This content was my solution to bridge that gap. The last 4 or 5 years, I've been working intensely on my personal story. Life is composed of at least 4 major elements of our life, and I put it in what I call the cycle of flow, which is the individual, our personal life. Are we real with ourselves? Do we really okay in the private recesses of our intimate moments with ourselves and getting comfortable with who we are? Then our family part, where a lot of the satisfaction and joy actually derives, and also the deepest pains and misery when we mess that up. Then our public persona, which this is our public persona. Look at us acting like we know everything, when really we don't. We just put this reflection out most of the time and identify as that's what we are. But it's not, it's a bit fake and facade. The third link, the fourth link is what I call our wealth, our time, money, and resources. Wealth does not mean money. It means we are well, emotionally, physically, spiritually well. When we get all of those alignment, we operate in flow. If we have congruency in our individual life, family life, public persona, and how we're spending our time, money, and resources, we can operate in then simple flow. When we don't do that and we're all clunky in our personal life and all this negative brain damage and psychosis and anxiety and frustration or incongruencies with what we're manifesting publicly, clunk. Of course we can't operate in flow. And then we go upside down and it becomes this very disparate, difficult pattern of losing wealth, falling on the floor, energizing up, having to caffeinate in the morning and to medicate to go down, and just completely incongruency. My experience is that's where 99.9% of the population lives of, and I think entrepreneurs are even worse because so much effort is put into that public persona. I know I did. I lived there. That we miss the true deep intimacy, the quiet moments of our life and heart. And what I've put valiant attempt at, to quote my person, I just adore his writing, Parker Palmer, is it's not until we face our fears, fierce with reality, and have the courage to go towards the thing that scare our pants off, that we can actually get to that point. And part of that requires facing our brokenness is an integral part of our healing. And I think that that's the journey I've been on, modeling how we could do that with family. We got the business thing. It's easy peasy. People think it's so hard to create $1 million business. It's really not that hard. The question is, can you do it without blowing your personal life up and stay in congruency? That's actually hard to get that flow going. And then once you got keeping it in flow, it seems to interrupt. So that's my response to what seemed like a simple question, but was more complicated.
I appreciate that, because hearing you explain that, like, it really summarizes like all the work that you've done, like all of the zigzag principles, public persona, Legato family persona, and then you have toes turn purple, and you have all this work is accumulated into the personal, and the wealth is tied into Legato. There's a lot of interconnectedness there, and it just really resonates really well. And a lot of business owners are exactly what you said. They will get the public persona so well done, and that the world, everything looks fine, but everything else that you just mentioned, all those other personas are a complete mess, and they're just down in that dip, and it's just the grind of life, and they're not satisfied and not fulfilled. So I think that people are going to resonate with that. Is that what Blindsided is really trying to get out? Is that the message of Blindsided?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're all accountable for our own destinies. We have our own journeys, and the best we can do is share what worked for us. Most of the time, this individual battle, the inner recesses of our soul, it's a private journey. And so mine ended up being very dramatic, and I wouldn't have believed it if it had not happened to me. It explains why I spent so much attention to build this unified family, why I did 51 businesses. That's insanely stupid. I can't believe it myself now. What would drive and fuel that? It's this internal rocket fuel. Entrepreneurs tend to be the most functional, dysfunctional people in the world. The greatest people that I know that accomplish things have such unbelievable traumas in their background or things that have happened that it's remarkable they survived. These crazy things that happen to us when we're younger either drives us to be, well, no judgment, but heroin addict, psychosis, or fuel that in a positive direction. That's what I did with my life for the most part. Although it could be argued I belong in a mental institution. Sometimes all of us could, and that's okay. It's not till we get real with ourselves and understand, hey, I've got shadow self and I got my what I call my spirit animal, and getting okay with it and communicating, with our significant others, and understanding that's part of this human experiment, this little mortal experience that we're is really nothing more than I think a video game in regards. We take it so serious, we're all running it down here playing with our pickaxes when it's actually nothing more than running down in a little sandbox. We get so wrapped up in temporary things that we miss the very foundational elements of what really matters and what's really important. Often everyone always says, "Oh, well, your funeral." Yeah, it's never mentioned how much money you made or what you did. It's about deep, tender, intimate relationships we build. We just spend way too much time propping up this external persona in lack of then building the family structure, which is the Legato Family Framework. And I don't know, your audience probably doesn't know a lot about that, but being in the financial planning or financial institution, the reality is it's very complicated oftentimes to make these financial decisions in your life if you haven't platformed and understand your values, what you're going for, and how you transmute those to future generations. And a lot of times that's where the stickiness ends up being. And that's difficult to get to if you don't know who you really are. Most people have not taken the effort to really, truthfully ask hard questions and understand what's fueling on the positive side and negative side. And that's what I attempted to do in Blindsided. It's a remarkable story.
Yeah, we're going to that direction. One question I have, because this would resonate, what are a few steps people can take to rectify that I'm out of flow, and how do I fix that? Is it start with the individual first, and then you go to the family? But is there specific action steps that people can take to start to do that?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I think that everyone's different, has to start at different places, and you need to be met where you're at. I have this, and on the website, you can go there and kind of see that exercise, but it's called value visioning. And I think that the first thing is just getting clear on where you're stuck. There's various components of it to get, like, I call this the cycle of force. It's burning hot in your business, and then getting wealth, and then screwing your family up. 70% of all wealth is lost by the second generation, 90% by the third. I used to think it was those stupid grandkids or great grand. I don't think it is anymore. Oftentimes, wealth or money is used to hold them in prison. The death occurs at the bottom cycle. It takes generations to carve out of. In our lives, we know when we're stuck and we're forcing it. The individual component is difficult to overcome. The family, working through links of functional, healthy relationships, and then again, the public persona. The only way to tip that over into the cycle of flow, individual, family, business, and then wealth is congruency of values. Individual, family with your significant other, what your public facing values, and then your wealth values, which is time, money, and resource, and having all of them congruent, coupled with removing the grit and the grime from that center point, which is the broken parts that we have to deal with. We all have broken epigenetic or pieces in us that we have to just remove that's not congruent. And it's when we get congruency of values and just extract some of these elements that are not in harmony with what we're wanting to be, that then actually we can get in flow and stay in flow longer.
Is this what you want readers of Blindsided to get out of it, to learn how to get into that flow? Is that the message?
Well, that's ultimately our message and destination, but the specific purpose is very intimately to share my journey of discovery. Age 53, my father was this remarkable man. At the age of 2, his left eye was taken out, retinoblastoma, and my grandparents had to make an impossible decision. At that point, bringing a little blind boy into the world there's only two prospects. One is to work for the circus, and the other two is to become a beggar. Right in the middle of the Great Depression, they had to make the decision with his other eye when it became cancerous, give this boy a 1 in 20 chance of living, or do we remove the eye, giving him a certainty of blindness? My grandfather ended up winning the argument. And indeed, they removed his eye. Obviously, he lived. He ended up having eidetic memory, became an attorney, the highest prosecution rate in our state. Remarkable individual. My mother, a beauty queen, 15 years his junior. My identity was built on being the oldest son of John and Laurel Christiansen. Incredible opportunities, but unconventional. My mother, her art, to my father, who is nothing pure but logic. When I was 53 years old, I discovered, Justin, that my father was not my father, nor were the brothers I raised biological brothers. I was one of the first donor-conceived children in the Western U.S. At that point, it was nefarious, illegal. My dad would have went to prison, being the county attorney. It was also excommunicatable in our religion. My parents would have been kicked out of the religion. Through amazing discovery, I discovered I had siblings closer in DNA to me than the brothers I was raised with.
Wow.
And I discovered my biological father was the first abortion doctor in Utah. He looks like me, behaves like me. He had 7 children, 6 became financially independent entrepreneurs or doctors or in the medical field. And so it ended up being a remarkable discovery that completely disassembled my identity. I had always known I didn't fit. Something was wrong. At one point, I asked my mother when I was 12 or 13, am I adopted or something? Something doesn't fit here. And she's, no, you're my son, but only a partial truth. And so unpacking that in these latter years gave me this rich, deep context to write Blindsided, to then disassemble and reassemble identity of who I really was and come to grips with all aspects of myself. It's my journey, my story. I don't believe in gurus. We all have our own path. It's until we face our stuff that we can get to a place of personal stability, personal understanding, and be comfortable with who we really are. That's what the story of Blindsided is. Very intimate, evocative memoir, highlighting all aspects of that and recovery of that.
That's extraordinary. I really appreciate you being willing to share that journey with the world, because I think, like you mentioned at the beginning, it's raw. The reason you're so impactful to me is because you are so sharing. Like, your impact on our family with the Legato Family Framework has been tremendous. The relationship with my children is improving because you chose to share it. I'm really excited about the opportunity to get into Blindsided and to learn the lessons from you that I can implement into my life, identify my weak points, and get into that flow so they don't replicate what so many entrepreneurs do, which is destroy everything around them minus their public persona. I'm excited to get into the book myself, so I'm excited to share it with everyone here and to read it myself.
Thank you. Yeah, Legado is an amazing set of content to really help stabilize the family, and it's something that I'm just so grateful to impact. But I think actually getting into this more foo-foo stuff of getting real with ourselves, because it's really impossible to stay and maintain flow until we actually get real with ourselves. And most of the time, we spend so much time in this first mountain, first phase of life stuff that we really don't get to the very root of what's going on. And we're not able to be the fully manifest father or husband or best friend until we're showing up in integrity kind of with ourselves. I'm not saying it's ever perfect. I want to be careful. I was very careful in this book to be really honest, but almost so not to try setting out the path, but just to share my story. It's a remarkable story. It's maybe one of the most timeless love stories of sacrifice that I'd ever seen on all parts, on all behalves. And I think the thing I'm proudest about the book, although I try not manifest an ego, is so many of these types of books, the remarkable, sensational stories that everyone loves to read, they vomit and share this story and walk away, leaving everyone else to clean up the mess. I did not do that here. I really got to the point that make sure that I got at least to a safe, stable spot before I shared it. So I didn't end up negatively going out on any group or individual, although I was honest about it, who figured the truth will set you free was a valid concept. Ultimately, it is about love and truth setting us free and the complexities we navigate. My father's blindness, the abuse and trauma in my mother's life led her to this path. Can you imagine the courage of my parents to engage me, how much they loved and wanted me as a child, and the great sacrifice of the individual who enabled my life. One of my favorite quotes now is Oliver Wendell Holmes. For this side of simplicity, I would not give a fig. For simplicity on the other side of complexity, for that I would give my life. We must all pass through and have the courage to face the things that really scare our pants off, fierce with reality, and move towards those things courageously rather than hide them, blame them, walk away from them. Otherwise, it's impossible to find peace. You can't maintain flow if you don't face spiritual traumas that we all have. It's the reason for living. And so we also don't need to victimize ourselves for it and say, poor me. It's just now this bad shit has happened to you. What are you going to do with it? Use it as building materials to grow and expand our souls so that we can reach that level of more identity, more peace, showing up better for the ones we love, and get into a flow cycle, actualizing and really showing up for the reason that we're down here. Because it doesn't matter how many businesses you create, how big and fancy pants they are, how many jets you end up having even. That's not where you're going to get the clarity and satisfaction in your life. It's these private recesses of our soul. That's why I felt prompted. To be honest, it scares me. It makes my knees quiver. I'm going boldly and vulnerable with this story. But until we do that, have the courage, we really can't get to resolve and can't move to this next phase of life.
I appreciate that monologue there. That was really well said, Rich. I think this is a battle that every person on earth can relate with, but especially these business owners that oftentimes the reason they've created the business, just like what you did, was this internal battle that you didn't recognize or confront. And so this is an opportunity to really dive into the stuff that actually matters, fix your family, fix yourself, and simultaneously live a much more purpose-filled life, full of impact and opportunities to expand the world. So I really am excited that people have the opportunity to get to know you better, but also get into Blindsided and read that. What's the best way for people to connect with you, follow you, read Blindsided, read your other work? What's the best way to do that?
If you go to richchristiansen.com, you'll see all the content. There's actually a whole bunch of free tools on there all the way. Many of the tools that I've become somewhat famous for are on there. Many of them are free. You can order all the books. All my social media platforms are on there. I've been hiding from social media now for 10 years. Now have a team that's publishing content. So would invite you to go subscribe to the channels and order my books. The Zigzag Principle Revision 2 is coming out. I know many people have asked for that and the audiobook. That'll be out within the next week or a couple of weeks. And the Blindsided launches October 6th. Please pre-order that. It'll be worth your while.
I really appreciate your time today, Rich. Is there any last parting words that you would offer as a advice or something that would benefit the audience? As this is my lesson learned, this is what I would like to leave as a go do, go think about, go consider moment?
My only comment is it's just not that serious. We don't have to take everything so serious all the time. And returning to those very tender, intimate, we can replace anything in this life. We can replace jobs, cars. We can't replace our health, trust relationships. And most of all, we can't replace our families. So focusing on those critical parts, and don't hesitate to live out of balance and do extreme things. I've lived my life that way. It's amazing. But make sure that you cross that line of balance as frequently as possible so that you can live in kind of the balanced, middle, moderate way. Anytime you're driving to extremes, it's dangerous. The safe middle way is where we hold peace and hold the space. Ultimately, it's that relationship with yourself, and embracing your brokenness is an integral part of who you are. It's okay to acknowledge those warts and live with it. That actually gives a lot of peace. Don't hide from your stuff is the advice that I would give. And don't It's great. Go create these businesses. It's fun, but you'll get to a point where you realize that that's not filling, the essence of your soul. You've got to go deeper into the businesses. Did not fill my soul. It was cool, but it did not fill the recesses of who I was in. So don't have that be the identity of what you were. So, stop saying, what do you do? I hate that question. Tell me about yourself. What that means is, what do you do for work? It's like, no, who really are you? And you can answer that with clarity. You're in a flow cycle.
I love that. I appreciate it, Rich. That last sentence resonated with me because think about the conversations you could have when people ask that question to you and you're actually speaking from that flow state versus just the public persona state. It would be a really powerful, deep conversation with people. So thank you.
We've got deep into a materialistic world where that's our driving factor. We've got to move out of that, start healing our families, ourselves, our communities, get out of this panicky cycle of more, more, more. And we'll do it, Justin.
Thank you, Rich. I appreciate your time today. I encourage everyone to go to richchristiansen.com to connect with Rich, read his books, and just learn from the extraordinary life that Rich has led and the vulnerability that he's been willing to share. So thank you, Rich, and you have a great day.